Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're comparing the two sizes of the Google Pixel Watch 5. The smaller 41mm model in matte black with obsidian band and the larger 45mm model in satin perite with the green olive band. 4mm may not sound like a big difference, but once you put both watches next to each other or wear them on the wrist, it is very easy to see. And this is not only about appearance, the size also affects the weight, the included band, how much information you can see on the display, and most importantly, the battery life. I wore both watches on my 19cm wrist and matched display settings as closely as possible. By the end of this video, you should therefore know which size is the better choice for you. The smaller Pixel Watch 5 has a diameter of 41mm, while the larger model measures 45mm. Both are officially 12.3mm high, so the 45mm version is wider but not thicker. The 41mm watch weighs 31 grams without the band, while the 45mm model weighs 36.7 grams. That is a difference of only 5.7 grams. You may not notice it when holding both watches separately, but in everyday use the visual difference is much more obvious than the difference in weight. Both versions use the same recycled aluminum case and the same rounded Pixel watch design, with the glass flowing smoothly into the sides. From the side, they also sit at practically the same height. The larger watch simply takes up more space across the wrist. Because neither model has sharp case edges, both look a little more compact than their official measurements might suggest. So my wrist size is around 19 centimeters and both watches are absolutely wearable for me. The 41mm model has a more discreet and almost elegant look. It does not look ridiculous small, but when both versions are compared directly, it is clearly the more delicate option. The 45mm Pixel Watch 5 looks more proportional on my wrist. It fills the available space better and has more presence without appearing oversized. Personally, this is the size I would prefer. The larger display is easier to see and the proportions simply suit my wrist better. This still comes down to personal taste though. Some people deliberately choose a smaller watch even if they have a larger wrist. But if your wrist is close to 19 centimeters and you're only judging the overall proportions, I would think the 45mm model is the more natural fit. There's also a difference between the included bands. I have the large band attached to both watches, but the large band for the 45mm model is visibly longer than the large band for the 41mm watch. The green band is also wider, matching the proportions of the larger case. So large does not mean that the bands are physically identical. In this direct comparison, the large section supplied with the 45mm watch is slightly longer, which also suits the overall proportions of the larger model. Both watch sizes also include a second, smaller band section in the box. On the 41mm version, the small band is designed for wrist from 130 to 175mm. With the 45mm model, it fits wrist around 150 to 185mm. You therefore receive both the small and large options and do not have to select a band length when ordering. These are Google's second generation active bands made from HNBR with a soft touch coating. They feel soft and flexible, and I cannot really say anything negative about them. They adapt well to the wrist, and the loose end is tucked underneath instead of sticking out. Just make sure you select the correct case size when buying another band, because the 41 and 45mm attachment sizes are different. Now, the larger display is the most obvious practical advantage of the 45mm version. Both sizes use the same basic technology, an AMOLED LTPO display with 320 pixels per inch, a refresh rate from 1 to 60 Hz up to 3000 nits of peak brightness, and an always-on display. Both are also protected by curved Gorilla Glass 5. Image quality, brightness, and smoothness are therefore essentially the same. The difference is the available display area. For a fair comparison, I set the display size to the smallest available setting on both watches. Interestingly, the 41mm model offers 4 display size levels, whereas the 45mm model offers 6. The larger watch therefore gives you more flexibility when scaling the interface. For font size, both models have the same 6 levels, and I use level 2 out of 6 on both. With those settings, the 45mm screen shows more text and longer notifications. You also see a little more in the app list and when scrolling through workout modes or other list-based menus. The content feels less cramped and you need to scroll slightly less often. However, the difference is not equally visible everywhere. The tiles remain essentially the same size and the health data screens use a very similar layout on both watches. The 45mm model does not add completely new information to every screen. Wear OS often scales the same interface to the larger display. So if you mainly use tiles or briefly check individual health values, the benefit may feel smaller than expected. But if you read notifications and use lists regularly, the larger display does offer a clear advantage. Both Pixel Watch 5 sizes are relatively light, and in normal use, I noticed the case size more than the 5.7 gram weight difference. The 41mm version naturally feels more compact, but the 45mm model does not feel particularly heavy or bulky on my wrist either. You notice the larger case a little bit more when putting your hand into a tight trouser pocket. However, the very rounded design helps both watches slide past the fabric quite easily. There are no sharp corners that immediately catch on a pocket or sleeve, so putting a jacket or a sweater over either watch is also easy. The 41mm version does have a small comfort advantage because it takes up less space, but the difference is not enormous. For me, the display size, appearance, and the battery are more important than the small difference in everyday comfort. The battery is one of the strongest arguments for the larger model. The 41mm Pixel Watch 5 has a 332 mAh battery compared with 465 mAh in the 45mm version. Google rates the smaller watch for up to 30 hours with the Always On Display enabled, while the larger watch is rated for up to 40 hours. In battery safe mode, the official figures are up to 48 hours for the 41mm model and up to 72 hours for the bigger model. Both can reach 50% in around 15 minutes on the included quick charging dock. A full charge takes approximately 45 minutes on the smaller version and about an hour on the larger one. These are only Google's official figures for now. My own battery comparison with identical settings will follow within the next few days. According to the German Google store, the 41mm Pixel Watch 5 starts at 420 euros, while the bigger Wi-Fi version is listed at 450. So moving up to the larger case costs 30 euros before any temporary discounts or bundles. Apart from the case, display and battery, the hardware is essentially identical. Both use the accelerated Snapdragon W5 Gen 2 platform with the same Cortex M55 coprocessor, 64 gigs of storage, and Wear OS 7. You do not receive better general performance or additional health function with the larger version. The extra money mainly pays for more screen space and the larger battery. So which size should you pick? The 41mm model is the better choice if you have a small wrist, prefer a discreet watch, or simply want the most compact Pixel Watch possible. You still get the same performance, display quality, and features in the smaller case. The bigger model makes more sense if you have a medium to large wrist, want to see more text, or care about the battery life. The larger display does not change every menu, but notifications and lists are more comfortable to read. And the official difference between 30 and 40 hours with the Always On Display is significant enough to matter. For my own 19cm wrist, I would clearly choose the 45mm Pixel Watch 5. It looks more proportional, the additional weight is barely relevant, and I would rather have the larger display and battery. The 41mm model still works on my wrist, but I would mainly choose it if compactness were my number one priority.